slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everybody, no matter where you are, however you may be listening, this is your Pick'em show, and of course we have made it all the way into the wild card round of the playoffs. Now, for most people, Pick'em stops at the end of the year, but our Pick'em championship goes through the Super Bowl. So you got to make sure that if you're playing along with us, that you still get your picks locked in. Now, our show airs obviously about an hour before the first kick of the game. Donna, how's it going? Thanks for jumping in. And, so you definitely don't want to cost yourself a chance at the championship by not getting locked in. Now, everybody in the top 5, I think, already is. If you're outside of the top 7, you probably don't have enough points to really make a run at it. Although you probably still have a chance to maybe get into the top 5 where you can win some money. But the top 5 is probably about the only ones really within striking distance of getting the win and getting that name on the trophy. So that being said, I always go over ones that I got wrong from the week before. Week 18 is always a brutal week to try and win at Pick'ems, just because you never really know who's going to start to rest people, or you could end up with a situation like the Texans where halfway through everything was already decided. So they decided to shut their starters down in the second half. And Brad, it makes all the sense in the world that you'd be going Eagles over the 49ers. So that does make a lot of sense. That being said, I do like to go over the ones that I got wrong. And so for this last week, I had the Bengals getting the win over the Browns. Bengals came out and looked horrible. I'm not sure how that staff didn't get fired. That GM hasn't put any effort into getting talent on the defense, anything like that. So really surprised that, the whole staff didn't get canned. Dallas, similarly, they came out and completely just fell apart against the Giants. I did have Dallas winning that game. Naturally, I got that one wrong. Dallas just didn't show up, and they played all their starters. So that didn't make any sense to me. The Giants went out and won a game that really kind of hurt them more than anything. They would have had a shot at the number 1 overall pick if they would have just let their backups go. So, it's, but that's a Giants thing to do. Yep. No, we're going to go over all of those. Daniel, welcome in. Thanks for popping in. I took the Bears over Detroit. Detroit looked like they wanted to close out with a win, and definitely did that. The Bears offense looked awful. So they haven't been particularly good down the stretch here, going 2-3 in their last 5. Fortunately for them, we're going to go over that game, but the Packers have not looked particularly good either. Then we get to KC versus Vegas. Vegas was really trying not to keep the first overall pick by winning that game. KC had sat everybody, but you would have thought that Vegas would also have done something similar. Winning that game really doesn't help them out. Of course, they went on to fire their whole staff, which, I was a little surprised, but based on how bad they looked and how much they regressed from the year before, if you're looking at a over multiple years rebuild, Pete Carroll probably wasn't your guy. So on that aspect, it does make sense. It did make a little sense there. Washington versus the Eagles. I had the Eagles there. Eagles, after we had already locked in our stuff, decided to kind of not play anybody. Washington, I thought was going to lose that game just because everyone was hurt. But when you have two teams that have nobody starting playing, it's a toss-up, could go either way. Washington walks away with that. That was my 5th loss of last week. And then the Ravens versus Steelers. Obviously, that was a last-second kick from, or a last second missed kick, I should say, that got me that pick wrong. So I ended up going 10-6. Wasn't a terrible outing when you figure week 18 is always just a toss up as far as who's resting, who's playing for, maybe playoff seeding, who's playing for a better draft pick. Like week 18 is such a hard one to pick. So to go 10-6, I wasn't overly disappointed. Had me tied for second on the week. So, not bad. 8-8. I mean, I've had some clunkers during the season. So, 8-8 definitely wouldn't have been my worst one of the week or a worst one of the season, but, ended up finishing the regular season 172 and 100. And if you were to put that into the mix of the CBS analysts, that would put me right in the middle of their panel. So tend to be pretty consistent out here. And so this is our fourth year doing this championship. I won it the first two. I finished third last year. I am currently sitting third yet again. So we'll see how this thing wraps up over the next few weeks as we get closer to the Super Bowl. But I'm only 2 games back. So I am in striking distance of first place still. But I'll pretty much have to be almost batting 1,000 to be able to catch Rob in first place or my dad, who is in second. So should be pretty good. 175 and 112 for the season. That must be including preseason because there's only 272 games for the regular season in the NFL. I never actually include preseason games just because you never really know what their plan is for that as well. Okay. So that being said, we do have a unique wild card weekend. We do have a Monday night game that we get to talk about, which, is not something that they used to do. And, obviously have a couple of games today, one of which starting right after this show, which, is actually going to be a pretty good game when you think about it. And let's go ahead and start this off with saying that this show is brought to you in part by BetUs. If you use the QR code on the screen, you get up to 125% of your first 3 deposits, 10% bet guarantee. We actually do pretty well. We've hit on 63% of our picks this year. And so if you were doing the money line on all of those, you would be up some money. So if you are into sports betting and happen to not be here in Washington State, since you can't sports bet legally outside of a casino, use this QR code here and bet right alongside us here on the Pick'em Championship. All right, so let's get into the first game. It kicks off at 1:30 Pacific, 3:30 or 4:30 Eastern. We have the Rams that finished the season 12-5, headed to Carolina 8-9, with hopes to avenge their earlier loss this season. And this is one where I really think the Rams are going to get this done. They have Devontae Adams back. They're the better team overall. I think they got a little bit surprised by Carolina. And Savin Chad, thanks for jumping in. So, the one thing I will say is the line I don't love on this game. So the Rams are a 10.5-point favorite on the road here. I do think the Rams get this win. Covering the 10.5, I'm a little leery of, and it's the half that gets it, right? Like if it was 10 even, I think that's probably about right. I think the Rams come out with something to prove. They want to show that what happened to them before was more of an aberration than what, than them just kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. So I fully expect Stafford to not throw, 3 picks or anything like that. 96% of America is on the Rams here. And the over-under is 45. That feels about right. I would probably actually go over. I do think that the Panthers are going to score a little bit. So there is that element of it. All the pressure is on the Rams, though. The Panthers are a little bit ahead of schedule. I thought they were going to be about 2 wins less than they are. Obviously, they win the division, but nobody wanted to win this division, right? Like anytime you win with a losing record, it's not particularly great. But that being said, half of the time, the first 2 times that someone won with a losing record, they won the first wild card game. The last 2 times they didn't. Weirdly, this is the 3rd of those 5 times that this division has won with a losing record, and the 2nd time Carolina has. Carolina did win a playoff game the last time they did this back in 2014. So I wouldn't rule it out. What's happening, Joe? 28-21 Rams, I could see that. It's I think there will probably be some field goals in this, though, so it may not be quite there. Hey, be sure to get your picks in if you guys haven't yet. So in any event, I think where the Panthers really are going to struggle is the Rams have the number 1 offense as far as total yards. They're 2nd in passing, right? So that Carolina defense, that is kind of the hallmark of what they do, right? Like that is the better element of their team, is going to get tested early and often. They also have Devontae Adams back, which is going to help them tremendously. So their D is going to have their hands full with Devontae Adams and, of course, the NFL's 2nd leading receiver in Puka Nacua. So we'll see what they get going there, but I imagine that this is absolutely going to be a dogfight when it comes to, really a defensive battle, especially from the Panthers side, because they're going to need to play a nearly perfect game to keep the Rams at bay here. That being said, they get to play loose and fast because all the stress and expectations are on the Rams. No one expected the Panthers to be here, so they get to play a really comfortable brand of football. They just get to go out there and do what they do because, again, nobody even thought they were going to be in the playoffs, let alone win their division. So they get to come into this game about as relaxed as you can, and it's a home game. So that does help them out. And yeah, I'm going with LA. The Panthers are a fun pick, but I don't expect them to actually win. So, we'll see what they do there. Now, the Panthers at the same time have surprise teams all year, including this Rams team. So it's not that they can't win this game. They're just going to have to play some of the best football they have played all year. Again, they have had experience winning the division with a losing record and winning in that first wild card game. So, and yeah, you shouldn't always take what I'm doing, right? I give my analysis, and then you make the picks based on what you've seen, any information that I put out there that you think is useful, and then yeah, you come to the decision. Otherwise, if everybody took what I did, the Pick'em Championship would be completely pointless because everybody would tie for first place. So now, statistically, the Panthers are outmatched in just about every way possible here. And so that's why I say this is going to have to be an upset, surprise type of win. Now, I do expect them to cover again, but I don't expect them to win this. And just to give you an idea of how this, has trended a little bit, is this is the 5th time that someone has won a division with a losing record. The first time was Seattle. That's what produced the Beastquake. And, they were 7-9. So they get that win. Carolina then did it in 2014, and they made it to the divisional round before getting beat. After that, the success has been less so. So with the Bucks doing it once and Washington doing it once, both of them losing in the wild card round. I do have a outside chance of the Panthers doing this, but it's going to require Stafford to fall apart. I just don't think that happens again, especially with the full complements of weapons coming back. And so yeah, I have the Rams getting this done, but I expect the Panthers to not lay down and make them earn it the whole way. Don't be surprised if this is a closer game than you think, and the Panthers have a shot late before the Rams basically win by 10. So that's where I'm at with that one. The game 2, tonight's game, is Packers headed into Chicago. Now the Packers are 9-7-1 against Chicago, who won the division at 11-6. Somehow Vegas has the Packers as the favorite coming into this game. Now, it's not a big favorite. So if we were to jump over here, they are a 1.5 favorite. But what's crazy about that to me is there is absolutely no reason for them to be favored in this game. So if we jump in here, they are, it's actually dropped back down to 1 point even. Over under 44.5. That one is going to be close. I think it's actually going to probably hit the under there. 74% of America on the Bears, even though the odds makers like the Packers here. When you come through and you look at some of these rankings, the Packers are the better team on paper. But this doesn't show the fact that you have the amount of injuries and key injuries for Green Bay that the Bears don't have to deal with. Now, the Bears offense has been solid. Their defense has been underwhelming. But since Green Bay is going to be without Micah Parsons, that is a huge hit to the defense of this Green Bay team. Love is coming back, although he's missed a couple of games. So there's going to be some inherent rust that he's going to have to work through. If they fall behind early, there's a good chance that that defense for the Bears can become opportunistic and, kind of move ahead of them there. So I like the I like the Bears here. I really don't get the odds makers giving Green Bay the nod here. Again, like I get statistically they might be a little bit better, but I don't think they're enough better to overcome. Yeah, I mean, the only way I see Green Bay winning this is if they are in the heads of the Bears. So say the Bears are trailing early or there's a momentum swing, some adversity throughout this game. Can they recover from that? That is the real question here, because on paper, they're the better team across the board. They're also healthier across the board. So if Green Bay is going to win this, it's got to be one of those where mentally, because they've had so much success against the Bears through history here, if any of that pops in their head, like, oh man, here comes Green Bay again. If that happens and mentally they beat themselves, then sure, Green Bay should win this. It's the only way I see them winning, though, because when you have a Jordan Love who's been injured, who's just now coming back, going to have a bunch of rust. Your main pass rusher is out of the game. There are some other injuries around Green Bay as well. If for whatever reason Love gets hurt, Malik Willis is questionable for this game with that shoulder injury. So even if he is able to go, how effective can he be? You saw him his last outing. Once he went down on that shoulder again, he just wasn't quite the same through the rest of that game. So a lot of this really leans towards the Bears. I expect them to get this win. I'm sure it'll be a close game the whole way, but it should be, it should really favor the Bears here. I mean, if there was ever a time for the Bears to get over the hump of mentally being beat down by Green Bay, this is it, right? You're at home. You have the better roster. You're also healthier. There's no reason you should lose this game. But at the same time, it's the Bears. And we've watched them for, 20 years do the same thing where they just kind of fall apart against Green Bay. So, and okay, well, there you go. I was hoping he was going to take Green Bay. That way, if you catch an L, I can make up a game there. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with you there. If it's a low-scoring game, that does kind of help the Packers out. If it's a high-scoring game, obviously that will definitely lean towards the Bears. The Bears' defense is terrible. So, and as you can see on the screen here, 29th in yards allowed, 22nd in passing yards, 27th in rush yards, 23rd in points. So, I mean, they don't employ the bend and don't break. They bend and break. Like, you can score on this team. The problem is when you look at the other side, the defense, all of those numbers are less than, not only are they worse than the offense of the Bears, But a key element of that defense to put those numbers together isn't there anymore in Micah Parsons. So instead of being a, like 13th ranked defense, they're probably more around 18th ranked now without that key element of their pass rush. So again, I fully expect the Bears to get this done, but Diggs, I mean, I don't know if I'd go all of that, but but you never know, right? You never know. Maybe he randomly has a good game. Anything's possible. I'm not putting money on it, but if you had a prop bet that says he makes a big play, just be ready to lose that money. Oh man. So then we move into what is my game of the week here, and that is the Bills at the Jaguars. And our game of the week is brought to you in part by True Fusion Gym. Free 5-day pass at any of the 3 locations, whether it's Bellevue, Ballard, University Village. Just use that QR code on the screen to get that free 5-day pass. There is also a Reformer Gym coming to the Ballard location. They are undergoing all of their training right now, actually headed up by my wife. And so that will be ready to go in theory by the end of February. So that will be available to you as well. Again, use that QR code on the screen for a free 5-day pass. Any of the 3 locations, True Fusion Gym. Find your edge. True Fusion Gym. All right. Yeah, he wants to go to a yoga bar. Yeah. I'm not even sure what it is he thought that might even be. Yeah, the thing with the Jags, and so obviously we're going to get into that right now, so let's put this up here. Now, this one is a heavily contested game here, right? 51% of America on the Bills. The Bills are a 1-point favorite on the road. So even Vegas is like, man, I don't know how this one's going to go. Over under a 51.5. That feels about right. I think that so I took the Bills here, and it's not a confident pick, right? Because despite the fact that the Bills have the highest power rushing offense, it doesn't matter when Josh Allen isn't perfect. So their defense, although has gotten better over the course of the season, doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. And when Josh Allen isn't perfect, they don't win, right? So even though they're great at rushing, they just don't produce when Josh Allen isn't making magic out there, right? So that is where my biggest concern there is can this team win if Josh Allen isn't perfect? On the other side of the ball, you have the Jags that have wildly underperformed over the last few years. They're 13-4 this year, and they're riding a nice win streak coming in. So the Jags are also a healthier team, just overall. I like the Jags, except for the fact that there's just all of the history of watching this team, of them falling apart in key moments, and Trevor Lawrence being a turnover machine. And don't get me wrong, over the last, I think 6 games, he has 1 turnover. So, I mean, it's not that he's played poorly. It's just, you don't forget about all of the other stuff you've watched. And so that is where, I have a hard time picking the Jags here. I've literally clicked both sides of this probably 10 different times. I finally settled in on the Bills. Let you know how confident I am on this. If you're throwing money at it, I wouldn't put much on it. But I'm going with the Bills. Again, they have the number 1 rushing attack. The Jags have the number 1 rush defense. So that kind of evens itself out. You're looking at the 4th best scoring offense for the Bills against the 8th best scoring defense. Right. So that, again, pretty evenly matched. Where this one really comes into question is, can that 12th ranked defense, when it comes to scoring, keep Jacksonville from putting up points. They're the sixth best scoring offense, especially as they came down the stretch here. Defense for the Bills, they are the best against the run, against the pass. And if they can get out to a lead and force Trevor Lawrence to throw the ball, that's where they're going to have the easiest time. They are 28th against the run. At the same time, the Jags aren't great at running the ball. So these two teams actually kind of mirror each other fairly well. It all comes down to which quarterback can be special on this day. I'm going towards Josh Allen, some of which because that whole team really comes into question if Josh Allen can't figure out how to get some playoff wins once Mahomes is out, Burrow is out, Lamar is out. Like, everybody always makes the excuse for him that those are the reasons why he can't win. And now none of those guys are in the playoffs. This is the year he better make a deep run. Realistically, probably almost has to win. But if they are a first round exit, you have to wonder if McDermott finally gets fired. Because if you have a talent of Josh Allen and you can't seem to get through the first or second round of the playoffs with that, especially once the guys that they routinely fall apart next to aren't even in the picture. If you're losing to a Trevor Lawrence or a Drake May or, a Bo Nix, all these, these younger guys that don't have a lot of playoff experience, or a Trevor Lawrence that has a little bit, but not successful. All of a sudden you have to really look at this as, do they start letting people go in Buffalo? So there's a lot of pressure on Buffalo to get this win, not just for the coaching staff, but really for Josh Allen's legacy too, because then the conversation shifts away from, yeah, he's great, he just couldn't get past Mahomes, kind of like people used to talk about with, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. They're like, oh yeah, Peyton Manning would have won way more rings if Tom Brady wasn't in his way. They've kind of made that same argument for Josh Allen because of Mahomes. Without those guys in the picture, they kind of have to go win. And so I'm going to go with they get it done, but it's going to be a tight one. Yeah, I honestly, that is a real probable thing. If they don't win this round, that McDermott could be gone. That is definitely a thing. And yeah, the Jags playing at home, home field matters to some degree. Again, it's just sort of that looking back at the body of work from Trevor Lawrence. At some point, I feel like he's going to turn back into a pumpkin and be a turnover machine and fumble unassisted and like all of those things. Now, he's playing out of his mind, especially down the stretch here. So I'm not trying to take anything away from that. It's just, even though he's had a great run over the last 6-8 games, it doesn't erase everything that I've watched him do. So that's where my thing comes in there. 14-10, that feels pretty low, only because both these teams can score points. So that does feel a little bit low. But that, if that's the case, you want to take the under, because the over-under was 51 and a half. So, definitely be ready to bet the under on that. Okay. So now computer's moving a little slow. There we go. All right. Next one up, we have San Fran at the Eagles. Now, this one here is a little bit interesting. Eagles are a 5-point favorite at home, which fair enough. Over under of 44 and a half. This is an upset that I have. I think the Niners will be able to get this done. I don't like the offense for the Eagles in general. And yeah, so, and I think that's the case. Is I think they do get the win here. Statistically, believe it or not, the Niners are actually better most of the way. Now they're a 12-5 team with an amazing amount of injuries during the season, and they're starting to get some of their guys back. So, Yeah. I I just assumed you were taking the Niners on principle there, Joe. Being a Dallas fan, I figured you were just like, I'm going to bet on everyone but the Eagles. So I feel like it could have been anybody else. Yeah, and you have, and honestly, I think you're probably spot on here, especially because they dialed up the opposition that they did. I think there's a couple of teams that they could have beat in this round. The Niners probably aren't the one. Now, again, the Niners have a lot of injuries still, but I like the way they're coached. I like the way their next man up mentality has worked for them this year. And I mean, it's not like they're playing in a cupcake division, right? Like they're playing Seattle and they're playing, the Rams, both of which are also in the playoffs, all double-digit winners this year. So, I mean, it's not like they were playing a lesser than schedule. So I do don't like rooting for the Niners. No, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, the Eagles are not a Super Bowl caliber team. Not to say that they couldn't get hot, right? I mean, if you've been watching football a long time, Eli Manning was the prime example of a guy that was the most average quarterback ever, but you can jump in the playoffs and make some noise, right? Like he won 2 rings off of 2 years that, weren't exactly great teams. The second one was a little bit better because they had a phenomenal defense, but neither time were you looking at Eli Manning as he's the guy and he's going to go make this happen for you. Now he ended up being super clutch going through the playoffs to get those rings, but at the same time going in, you're like, yeah, these are wild card teams. You're not that excited about it. Yeah. So anything can happen. One of the things that obviously the Eagles has going for it is they are the returning champs. So they've been in this spotlight recently. The Niners, it's been a few years since they were in the Super Bowl, but they were in a championship game just a couple of years ago. So, I mean, it's not like it's completely foreign to this team either. So this is going to be a really good matchup. If I had an upset of the week, it is this one right here. I do think the Niners get it done in Philly. And I'm not just to make Pag sad, but, sometimes that's kind of funny too. So, and as a Seahawk fan, I gotta admit, I'm a little happy that I get to watch some stress-free football this weekend with them having the bye week because, the only other stress-free day that we had was their bye week. So, they've definitely put up some heart attack games throughout this season. So anytime you get one of those weeks where you get to move on without necessarily having the stress of it is definitely good. So won't say anything to Pags about that. It's fine. It's nothing that I haven't said in our group chat. So, but so yeah, I got the Niners on the road here in an upset, and so there we go. All right. Then we have, this one is going to be a very interesting game. So we have the Chargers and the Patriots. 88% of America on the Patriots here. They are a 3.5-point favorite at home, over under of 46. And I think that that's probably low. I think we hit the over on this one. I do like the Patriots, and solely because Herbert has been banged up. Now, there are quite a few injuries on the offensive line for the Patriots. So it by no means is this going to be any kind of a beatdown or anything like that. This is going to be a highly contested game all the way through. The biggest thing is where people are leaning towards the Chargers is the Patriots are a very untested team. And why I say that, and you can see it right on the screen, is strength of schedule was 32nd, dead last. And even that doesn't give you a clear picture of how easy this schedule was by comparison. This is probably one of the easiest schedules that I can remember. It was such a cupcake way to the playoffs. And at the same time, as much as I want to hate on them for having an easy schedule, you can only play who's on your schedule. So would they have won 14 games if they had a harder schedule? Yeah, probably not. Would they have still won 11 or 12? Quite possibly. They have been playing fantastic football. The problem with the fact that they had such an easy schedule is when you go down here and you look at these rankings, these numbers might be a little bit inflated by the fact that they didn't play anybody. At the same time, the Chargers didn't necessarily have a really difficult schedule either. So if you look at them, they were 28th as far as strength of schedule. So not exactly a hardcore schedule either. If we come down and we look at the way they match up, Patriots are the better team across the board. Again, I think these numbers are probably a little bit closer than even they look right here. I don't have a clear favorite when it comes to the offense and defensive matchups. I love the coaching from Vrabel. This team is really far ahead of where I thought they would be. And so they're going to get to play. They're another team that gets to play kind of loose and fast because no one expected them to be here. And even if they were to lose today, everybody's going to be impressed with the turnaround that this team had, right? Like you're talking about a team that everybody thought was going to have maybe 6 wins this year. You're looking at a 14-3, team that just cruised through their schedule. So I do really like the Patriots in this game. On the other side of it, obviously you have great coaching as well. All Harbaugh has done is win everywhere he's gone. Herbert has played better this year. He still has an issue with getting banged up, though. He's been banged up just about every year of his career. He has a hand injury. He's still listed on the injury report. I expect him to play. Like, there's nothing like that. But at the same time, if your quarterback is banged up going into the postseason, that doesn't generally bode well, especially when you're going against a defense that is second in the league as far as giving up points, or fourth in the league, sorry. And then on the other side of it, they're second in the league as far as putting points up. So you're going to need the best out of Herbert. You're going to have Harbaugh's best day out there as far as calling a game management. And then you're going to have the offense play better than it has. Because as much as you like to think about Herbert being one of the best quarterbacks in the league, they're like 13th or 14th overall on offense. So not exactly going out there and blowing the wheels off of stuff. The other thing is they've had a hard time actually scoring. So as you can see on the screen there, they're 20th in the league as far as putting up points. So if they stick with that average, they're definitely not going to win this game. But, we'll see. Both these defenses are strong. The offense for the Patriots is just a little bit better. So I'm going to go with the Patriots sneak by and a close one. And, again, this was a 3.5 point favorite at home. Home field advantage is 3 points. So Vegas is like, yeah, they're going to win because they're at home. And that's kind of it. So I tend to agree with them. I do think that the scoring will be, I think we'll hit the over with this particular team. Herbert's going to come out ready to go. Drake May doesn't know that he's not supposed to win. So both these guys are going to be dealing around the field. So I like that game. Okay. And then, of course, we got a Monday night game, which is not something we typically see in the playoffs just because of the way the timing works. They don't generally like to give teams one less day to get ready. But for whatever reason, we're doing it this time around. And so we got the Texans headed into Pittsburgh. This game, I don't believe, is going to be particularly close. This line has actually moved. So the Steelers have brought it down to being a 3-point underdog. It was 3.5. Also, there was 78% on the Texans before the show started, and we are at 79. So people are buying the Texans here. And Vegas is weirdly going the other way. So that's a little bit surprising to me. Over under of 38. I do think there's going to be more points than that. They're calling this a defensive struggle. I don't see that being a thing. Okay, Steelers, yeah. Yeah, possible. Whoops. Not sure what happened there. There we go. It didn't show up on this screen, but on my screen, my picks went away. So the let's see, let's scroll down. There we go. Now, when you're looking at this, the Texans are the better team across the board, and the defense for the Steelers, albeit the most expensive defense in the league, has been terrible. They are generally ranked somewhere between 23rd and 25th in the league, and the offense also wildly underperforming. They do have DK back. Does that make a huge difference? I don't know that it does. And the only reason I say that is DK gets in his own way enough that he's going to make a great catch that probably scores points. And then he's going to get an after the play penalty that costs them an entire drive that potentially loses them the game. So having DK back doesn't mean a ton to me. And their 25th ranked offense is going to be going against the second overall defense. They're second only to Seattle's. So when I'm looking at this matchup, I think that the middle of the road offense is going to be able to move the ball and score on that bottom five, bottom six defense of the Steelers. And then again, a bottom eight offense is probably not going to do a whole lot against a number two defense in the league. Now, Rodgers has a lot of playoff experience. Will he be able to will a win for Pittsburgh? Potentially. They potentially could do that. I just don't see it, especially with how good the defense has been with the Texans. Even before their offense started to come along, they were winning games with this defense. They're also on a really long winning streak. So I think they've won 8 or 9 in a row. So the Texans have really found a way to build a rhythm and get better as this year has gone on. The Steelers are in this game because of a lucky missed field goal by the Ravens. So not exactly the way you want to get in. Obviously, it's still a win to get in, but I mean, it felt more like they backed into the playoff situation coming against a red hot Texans team on Monday night. Honestly, I think the Texans kind of cruise through this game just based on the defense, certainly because of the pass rush that they have with, Will Anderson. So should be a phenomenal game. And the Steelers are going to make it interesting. If they're hanging around towards the end, you have to think they have a shot. Certainly with Aaron Rodgers, because he has so many game-winning drives at the end. So, we got Devin in the house. What's up? How's it going, brother? If you are watching, be sure to check out his stuff. He is a Bears fan, so he's got to be pretty excited about the games this weekend. So, yeah, he's going to come out fired up. He's going to be, again, he is a super dynamic receiver, not a great route runner, which is why I'm surprised that him and Rodgers have been able to get along the way that they have, just because, again, not a great route runner. And Rodgers is very about you being where you're supposed to be. But he is he is, just a monster presence out there. My problem with DK isn't the plays that he makes. It's the plays that he doesn't. And the off, in between plays that he causes problems. That's where, even when he was here in Seattle, I was saying for the last 2 years he was here that they should move on from him, because I watched him cost us games because of things after the play, where he'd throw a corner to the ground after the whistle's blown and you basically completely kill a drive. And it was something that was getting worse every year. Like, he had more personal fouls as every year went on. So it's not like something that was realistically getting better. He finally moves out of Seattle, and then, he was mostly doing pretty good with the Steelers. And then all of a sudden you see him, in that whole throwing a swing at a fan and all of that. So, I mean, the thing is you can get under his skin, and it's not just the team. The fans can get under his skin. So once you rattle him, he's not the same guy, and he starts getting you penalties. He starts dropping easy passes. So there is there's a real element to you can get DK off of his game without playing against him, right? You can have guys on the sideline talking to him, and he's gone over and gotten penalties. So I mean, you just if you just stay chirping in his ear, you can almost eliminate him from the game, because he'll have as many bad plays as good plays. Then when you look at the rest of that receiving core, MVS, not exactly a great consistent catcher of the football. And then, so all of a sudden you got guys that miss easy plays a lot. And now Rodgers likes to push the ball. That works out for both of those guys because they're both very fast. So do I think it'll be a high scoring game? It should be. It should be a high scoring game. Whether or not it is, we'll see. But I would expect it to hit the over. So that's kind of where I see that one. This Texans-Steelers game, I don't expect to be a high-scoring game. And only because, and as you can see right here, 38 points, right? Even Vegas doesn't think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Most of that is because the defense is going to shut down the Steelers, and the Texans' offense isn't that good, right? So the way the Texans win is because of their defense. So the only thing that you can say is decent about the offense for the Steelers is they're 15th as far as scoring points, even though they're way worse at everything else. Some of that is because of their defense, because their defense has been able to get, some random turnovers that put them in advantageous positions, or, maybe it's a pick six, stuff like that. Even though their defense isn't particularly good, they are opportunistic and have created some of those situations. And that is about right. Honestly, that is about right. 21-17 would be, that feels about right. Texans over them. Could even be like a 14-20, those types of games. It does feel like a really low scoring game though. So, all right. And then that does wrap us up there. It's funny. I had my tiebreaker for that game at 43. And the more I think about it, the less I like that number. Only because I don't think they're going to score that many points. So we're going to go ahead and change that. Let's see. The line was 38. I'm going to go with 37 as my tiebreaker there. So we'll lock that in. And again, if you are playing along with us, be sure to lock in your picks, especially if you happen to change any of them. We have kickoff coming up here in about 40 minutes. So definitely stay tuned for that. If you are watching right here, be sure to, bet alongside us on Bet Us using the QR code here, up to 125% of your first three deposits. Again, 10% bet guarantee. And of course, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, Archer Duck Cleaning, they're who help bring this to us as well. So if you haven't had your ducts cleaned in the last couple of years, or your dryer duct hasn't been cleaned in the last year, definitely get a hold of them. You can find them on Facebook, or if you happen to not be in the Pacific Northwest, give a duct cleaning company around you a call. There are more than 15,000 dryer fires a year. So if you haven't done it in the last year, or you can't even remember the last time it was done, it is that time. So avoid any expensive insurance claims and give them a message. Outside of that, we are going to get out of here. Enjoy the games today. And be sure to get your picks in. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Take it easy.